Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Lori Hoover. Together, let's wake the fuck up. So, for today's episode, I actually had a medium that I was going to be interviewing, and for whatever reason, we tried 3 different times and it just didn't happen. So, I know I haven't really given you any information about who I am, so I'm going to tell you. Obviously, I'm a podcast host, but I'm also a published author. I'm an intuitive guide and psychic medium, a Reiki master. I'm an energy healer. I'm also an ordained minister. I totally love crystals. I have a shit ton of them. I really do feel that each one has a special purpose, and I really enjoy connecting with their unique energy. Sometimes I will bust out my torch and make some lampwork glass beads. I do make jewelry, wire wrapped, stuff like that. I play around and make magic wands, just different shit to express my creative side. Now, being passionate about life and all who I share it with, warts and all, I research, write, record, edit, and produce this podcast, Wake the Fuck Up, in order to change the lives of millions of people. That really is my goal. I'm trying to get everybody to wake the fuck up so that we can move forward in a much better way. My awesome musician son, Alex, he's only 16, but he is the primary reason for this, for my passion. My cats too, of course. Oh, and my plants, because we can't forget the plants. But basically, I just want a better life for everybody, flora and fauna included. I am just honored and grateful to be alive in this extraordinary time in history. And so I want this podcast and the guests that I have on here to show you all the reasons why. So what we're going to do today is I am going to switch it up a bit, and I'm going to have my friend Courtney come in, and she is going to interview me. So please join me in welcoming my good friend Courtney.
Hi, Lori. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm stoked too. This is gonna be fun.
Okay,
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, well, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to have you do is, I know you just kind of, gave everybody your bio, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about your background and the kind of focus on your mediumship. So let's talk about that a little bit, and tell me what one of your first experiences with connecting to the other side was.
Well, do you want the before I knew I was a medium, or do you want when I found out I was a medium? Because I don't know if you remember, but we had a non-friendly here in the house, and we had to have an entire team of people come in, and they did all this bullshit to try and get rid of him. But do you want that part of it, or do you want me to tell you about when I first found out I was an actual medium?
I think, just like, what was your first experience, where you got that kind of, hey, this isn't like just life on earth. There's something more out there.
Well, I mean, I had, before I had this experience with this woman, Mary, I would have these feelings, like I just had this sense. I knew that somebody was there. I would get this warm, almost hot, sometimes tingly sensation in the middle of my back. And I would see things out of the corner of my eye and stuff like that. And I mean, it was kind of a progressive thing, but it was really lunch with Mary that really told me, holy shit, I am actually a medium. Like, I'm really connecting with people. And that was just a strange thing. I mean, I had gone to this class that she hosted at a library, and it was to meet your spirit guides, which I did not. Nothing happened in the class, but we connected through Facebook. So it was like about a year later, I think, that, I don't know, I just had this feeling I was supposed to reach out to her. Well, she had the exact same feeling, and we ended up connecting through Facebook and set up to get together for lunch. And this ended up being like the longest lunch ever because we met at like 1 or 2 o'clock. And then we ended up like talking and talking and talking about all this spiritual stuff and shit like that for like the whole day. And we literally closed a second restaurant at 11 o'clock at night. They had to kick us out. But
I
so
do remember that.
yeah, so but after dinner, because we had lunch and then we moved to this other place and we had dinner. And after dinner, she says to me, okay, it's time to, I'm being told that I'm supposed to work with you. And her guides, like she said, they had like a whole row of spirits for me to talk to. And I was like, I don't do that. Like, basically, you've got the wrong girl. I don't know anything about that. And she was kind of just really nonchalant, like, yeah, just, clear your mind. You can do this. And so she basically instructed me what to do, which was just to clear my mind and ask, who are you? Are you friend or family? And then I kind of added in, if it was family, are you maternal or paternal side? And then what's your message? So I did that. And I actually started hearing shit in response. And I was like, what the hell? So I would tell her what I got, what popped into my mind. And I swear everything I said, she's like, I can confirm that. I can confirm that. I can confirm that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. And
That's
it
awesome.
was, oh my God, it was probably one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, and that's the energy that you feel from something like that had to really be wonderful. How did
Oh
you
yeah.
get from that first connection to where you are now, where you're reading people on a regular basis, you're doing a lot. There's a lot more that you're doing now than what you were doing when you first started out. How did you kind of evolve through that?
Uh, I literally just started. I mean, I started reading for friends and family and myself. I started out with 2 oracle decks. And I don't know, I just started playing around with them. And then the more I got familiar with the decks, it didn't even end up being about the decks because I can read anybody without any cards. It's more of a jumping off point.
Yeah.
But I mean, it literally just started with that. I started reading people that I knew, and I felt like that connection and the information was coming through more, just more readily, and it was much clearer. And so it just evolved like that. And it was very quick. I set up a page for myself on Facebook, and I've been doing this, I don't know, 7 years or something now.
Yeah. Do you believe that everyone is capable of psychic ability, or are there like varying degrees with some people being more gifted than others? How do you perceive that as working?
I believe that we all have access to the exact same information. I just don't think that we're all necessarily meant to tap into that in this lifetime. We all have the capacity. I just don't believe that we're all meant to necessarily. Now, intuition, yes, trust your gut 1,000%. But as far as, the rest of it, being able to connect with spirit and stuff like that, yes, we all can. But no, I don't believe we're all meant to.
Okay. So all of that being said, it sounds like there's different types of psychic abilities where individuals can be like stronger in certain things and weaker in other things. Can you discuss maybe the different types and explain a little bit about them?
Yeah, and you know what? I was gonna make myself a cheat sheet to talk about the clairs because that's what they're commonly referred to, and I forgot to do it because I don't actually remember what they all are. But when I say the clairs, it's clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. There's clairgustance. There's, these different, they're just different names for our senses. So like clairvoyancy, it's like you've got clear seeing, clairsentience, clairaudience is clear hearing. So that just means that you can see spirit, or you can hear spirit, you can feel spirit. I've experienced all of them except for the clear gustance. I've never had something come through that was a taste. Now I've experienced the sight, the sound, the feeling, just the knowing that somebody was there. I've even had the smells. My mom's boyfriend, this was, he passed away when I was 13 years old, but she had this boyfriend, and they had this, they had this lotion, let's just say that. And it smelled a really specific way. It was like kind of fruity. And I just, every time he comes through, I smell that lotion, and it's really funny. But I love it. I love knowing that, that's just him, and that's his smart ass way of letting me know that he's there with this emotion lotion or whatever.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well,
It's funny.
what advice do you have for someone who wants to develop their own intuition, and actually likewise for someone who wants to maybe advance to your level? Maybe they've had, some things going on that they feel that, they've had some experiences where people have kind of come through to them, and things like that, and they want to develop to your level. Do you, I mean, obviously there's a difference, between, developing your intuition and developing to the mediumship level. What advice do you have for people like that?
Well, some of the things that worked really well for me was just, excuse me, just trying to, first of all, I had to make sure that I felt comfortable. That is such a huge, huge piece of it, because especially because I had that experience previously that was, just not so great connecting with the other side. And because of that, I needed to make sure that I felt protected. And so I wrote a little prayer of protection for myself. And I mean, I typically will reference what I consider our creator, as the universe more generally, but in this prayer of protection that I wrote for myself, I called it God. You can call it whatever works for you, but I just would say that I encircle myself in the white light of God's love and divine protection, that I am always safe and secure, and that only those energies with the purest, most loving intent can even come within a 5-mile radius of me. So that was like my first thing. I put this, I put that shit way out there, So
Yeah.
no non-friendlies could come through ever again. So that was the first step. But then I did these little things where I would just do like yes and no questions to try to play around with my intuition. And so what I did was I visualized the word yes. And for me, I made it kind of like, feminine and swirly. And then I envisioned the word no, which was just a really thick, bold N-O, And then
Yes.
I just would mentally ask questions that I already knew the answers to, because you want to calibrate it. And so you just mentally ask these questions, is my name Jack? Obviously, I got the big N-O. And so you do that a few times. And then from there, once you've got it calibrated and you know that it's working, then you just start asking questions that you don't know the answer to. They have to be yes and no, or you can get an oracle deck and just start playing around with the cards and get a feel for the cards. I
Because
think I would.
you have quite a few Oracle decks, don't you?
That's funny. You're a smart ass. Yeah,
I
I think I'm I think I'm close to 90 now.
I think kind of like a little, maybe a fetish or so. It's kind of like my habit with shoes.
Oh God. But the cool thing about it is, for the most part, there are some that they're just not really good for using for the card a day because there's not enough information on the individual cards to support that. You have to look through the book, and then each thing is like another fucking book in itself. So
Yeah.
I do have one shelf of those that I don't even bother with for the card of the day, but all the rest of them, I mean, my guides will choose. I use all of them in some
I,
capacity. I do use them all. So,
that's all.
but yeah, but I mean, I would start with, that with an oracle deck. You can also do a pendulum but again, with the yes and no thing, just to start.
Yeah. And
But
when you pendulum, you can also kind of like maybe put down a sheet of paper where you've got your yes and no, and then just, hold it up and let it swing.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that's a really good point to make, because if you have a clear direction where the yes is and the no is, it's a lot easier to tell, okay, it's going in that direction. So, you know, because sometimes you're like, okay, is this actually swinging in a circle, or, what the hell is it doing? And you have to hold your hand really, really still. And
Yeah.
one of the decks that I think everybody should have, like everybody, whether you read for somebody or not, is the Angel Answers deck. It was originally by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine, but it's just Radley Valentine now. But I would say for everybody to get that deck, because it's got yes and no, and it's got time frames and stuff like that. So it's a really good one too to play around with.
I think it's about time that maybe we take a quick break and pay some of your bills, and then we'll be back in a moment.
All right, sounds good.
Perhaps you've thought about starting your own podcast. I can tell you firsthand that starting a podcast was one of the best decisions I have ever made, but it can feel overwhelming if you don't know how to get started. Well, that's where Buzzsprout comes in. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch a professional podcast. In fact, it's so good, they've already helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout will get your podcast into every major podcasting platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You also get a great-looking podcast website, audio players you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and on and on. Plus, Buzzsprout publishes new blog posts, podcast episodes, and YouTube videos every week, so you can learn the ins and outs of podcasting from the people who eat, drink, and breathe it. To start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you and helps support our show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So now let's talk a little bit about an actual reading. I've personally had readings before, tarot, intuitive, runes, mediums. You've read for me before, and I've even had a past life regression. There's a lot out there. Tell your listeners a little bit about the process you go about in a reading, and what can someone expect if they've never had a reading before, but they're curious.
Well, what I would typically do is I have this little caddy thing, and I will generally have about 14 decks with me. If I'm doing it in person, I still use the same decks if I'm at home, but I'll get out my decks, and I will just tell the sitter, that they can ask me anything that they want to ask me. There is nothing that's off limits. And if they don't have questions, which a lot of times people don't, especially if they've never had one before, they don't really know what to expect. And so I will just tell them if they don't have anything specific they're wanting to know, that I'll just let my guides choose a deck and I will use that as a jumping off point. And then I'll just give them whatever comes through on the cards. And it's usually pretty good, because then with the cards and what's coming up, that will often generate questions for them, like, okay, can we clarify this, or things of that nature. But I mean, they can literally ask about anything. It's more often than not about love or relationships, but oftentimes career comes up and different things.
And health.
Yeah, oh yeah, health, yep. And they often ask about other people as well, their children, their parents, things like that.
Yeah, like how many grandchildren I'm going to have.
Yeah, that comes up too. But I will say that I don't necessarily trust numbers like that or timelines. And that's just because, especially with the timelines, because of free will. So I could see something that is looking like it's potentially going to happen in, say, June, but the person or people that we're talking about, they choose something different, and boom, the whole timeline shifts.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, okay. And I know, that for some of us, there's no fear. We jump right in there. We love the anticipation and we get excited when a medium or a reader hits on the things only we would know. But now I also know that for some others, there is a lot of fear. We talked about this before. I had a girl that worked for me that, she talked about her dead father a lot. And, she was a daddy's girl, and her life really revolved around him when she was younger. And yet there were so many unresolved issues. And she really was afraid that if she would have a reading, that she was just so afraid of what she would hear. How do you address someone's fears when they're afraid of that? It's that push pull of, I really want to, but I don't know, I'm afraid. How do you address that?
Well, for me, the one thing that I can tell everybody is that before I even start a reading, I will set the intention that only what is not necessarily that what the person wants to hear comes through, but what they need to hear will come through. And I also don't allow any kind of freaky shit, nothing, really negative. I mean, unless there's some sort of a warning that would potentially save somebody's life or something like that, nothing like that comes through. It's almost always designed to bring peace and closure to the person.
Okay. How have you ever had anything negative come up in a reading?
I have, yes. I've had where seeing somebody's passing. I have also seen some negative health issues, and that I was given steps for the person to take in order to correct them, and that if they did not, that they were going to have some pretty serious problems further down the road.
Okay.
And I was guided to deliver that information, so I did.
Okay. So you look for a way to kind of turn it around and relay to the person in a more positive way, but that, hey, it's a warning. It's for you to know that, part of the reason that you're getting the warning is to circumvent problems and, continue on with your life in a positive way.
Absolutely. And I'm actually really good at that. I don't know. I do pretty well with that, with
Yeah.
changing it around to put it, the positive spin on it. Try to look for the silver lining in the whole message. So
Yeah. Well, and you already kind of talked to me. One of my questions for you was really about, what you did to protect yourself. And I know that you have your prayer, and I know that that is a big thing for you, because I know you do that whenever you're going to be reading for someone. But can you tell me tell me about one of your most dramatic readings? I kind of would like, I know, and I know the one that I am thinking that I would like you to tell me about. But I also would kind of like to hear about what happened when you had the really negative energy where you're living, and when Alex was a little boy. I think your readers would like to hear actually about both of those instances. If you the first one is about when you got the really bad headache. So can you talk about both of those?
Yeah, I think I already relayed that one with that one. Um, I was doing a private party. There were only 3 people there. I had never met any of them before, but when I went in with this one particular woman, her father came through initially, and the whole time that I was interacting with him and delivering the messages from him, there was a gentleman that was standing off to the side, and he was just waiting for his turn, essentially. And as soon as the dad wrapped it up, he kind of stepped in, and my head just started pounding. And I relayed that to the woman I was reading for, and I told her, I said, just, oh my God, my head is pounding all of a sudden. And I asked her if she had lost a man to some sort of a head trauma, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. She couldn't even say anything. She literally just nodded her head. And so then he he put his finger up to his head like you would do if you were mocking a gun. And he did that. And I said, oh my God. I said, did he actually, do that? And she said, yes. And it was just crazy. And there was so much additional information that came through about that he had this, just, he had this so much guilt around the way that he went out, and the way that he did all of that. And it was an amazing reading. There was so much more to it than that. But at the end of it, I said to him, that he did not need to do that to make my head hurt like that, because it was atrocious. It lasted for 2 days after that. And he
Yeah.
told me that yes, he did, because otherwise she would not have believed me. So
What I find the most interesting about that is because not only did she get some assurance and some closure, but it sounds like he got healing as well, because he was able to relay how maybe I shouldn't have done it that way, but this is where I was at, and things of that nature. It was almost like you helped both of them.
for sure. And also he wanted her to know that he had actually had a part in connecting her with a new person. And
Oh,
yeah, and this person was somebody that was, he assured us that this was going to be somebody that was going to love her for the rest of her life. Like she was just set, you know, not only with the love relationship, but also financially. And it was amazing, truly amazing.
that that is just so cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so your next story, talk a little bit about what happened with the negative spirit that came into and
Uh,
just attached itself.
yeah, Zach.
Yes.
Um, I believe that he followed us from my previous home. We moved here when Alex he had just turned a year old. And when we got here, he was just terrified to be in his room. I would go into his closet to hang up his clothes, and it was freezing cold in there. He was saying things that as a mother scared the living shit out of me. I mean, he
Yeah.
said something one day, he was acting really weird. And I mean, he was like 3 years old at the time. And I asked him, Alex, what is going on? What's the problem? And he said, people are upset, okay? And I was like, what people? What are you talking about? And he said, because I didn't kill you, but I couldn't kill you, not you, mommy. And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, my blood ran cold. And
Oh,
he
that's so
just,
scary.
yeah. And he talked about things that there's no possible way that he would ever have heard the things that came out of his mouth from me or his dad, or even the stuff that was on TV. We just didn't, there was no exposure, but he would say things about putting a penis in a butt and stuff like that. And I mean, at 3 years old, it was just horrible. It was
Yeah.
horrible. And so it got to the point where he could not even, he couldn't sleep in his room. So he started sleeping with his dad and I, and that went on, for a very long time. And I had at one point contacted a group of people who were supposedly able to, you know, take care of the problem for me to get Zach to leave. And so they came in, they brought in all this equipment. They made us leave the house and they set up all their equipment and everything. And what happened was, while we were gone, they were antagonizing him. I mean, like trying to piss him off or just get him to respond. Well, they got the information, the data that they wanted. They got their, EVPs or whatever the hell. They got audio and video, and him saying something about a fire and stuff like that. But in doing so, the way that they did it by pissing him off, they made our lives just so much worse. And things just got really bad. And then I got a hold of my friend Carrie and I said, look, I just need your help. At the time, I didn't know anything about this stuff. I didn't know about smudging and I also didn't understand that you have the authority when it comes to spirit. Like you can say, hey, this isn't cool, get the hell out. But she
Yeah.
came in and she smudged the house and she just asked him to leave. And up until about, I'd say 4 months ago, he's been gone. So for like 13, well, maybe 12 years or so, about a dozen years or so, he's been gone. And then I got a little, I don't know what you'd call it, a little calling card from him a few months ago.
So yeah, so tell us about the visit and tell us what you did about it, because when she asked him to leave, well, okay, so he left, and then that was obviously an incredibly scary experience.
Yeah.
But then, so he kind of popped back in, and then tell your listeners what you did to take care of it, because this time was much less dramatic.
It was actually, well, I knew it was him. I mean, the energy was the same, and he straight up said, that it was him when because I asked him, what the hell do you want? And when I asked him that, he said, you. And I said, what the hell for? You can't have me. And the response was that he wanted to like basically use my body to channel. And I said no. I told him, no, get the hell out. You're not doing that. I'm not doing that. And so I checked in with my guides on that too, like if I was supposed to allow some sort of, to become a channel for someone. And I got a no, that wasn't supposed to happen, at least not at this point in time. So yeah, I mean, I just basically told him to fuck off. And that was it.
and get the hell out.
Yeah. Yes.
And so
So
now since you told him that, have you heard from him since?
no. Mm-mm.
Well,
No.
that's reassuring too.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a couple of days though, it was a couple of days of playing around with that, like I don't know why it is, but he hangs out over back it where the washer and dryer are, like past the refrigerator. It's like an offshoot past the kitchen where the washer and dryer are. And he hangs out over there. And every time for like 3 days, I would go, just walking over to put something in the garbage or whatever. And the hair on the back of my neck would stand up and I'd be like, oh shit, here we go. And so then like on the third or fourth day, I, finally was like, okay, what the hell is this? Checked in, found out, and that's what he said. When he said that he wanted me, I was like, oh, hell no. Nope, not happening.
Well,
So
now this kind of aside, because this is really an interaction thing. I don't think that most people realize that most psychics have a hard time reading for themselves. So even though you can handle things like this on your own because they're an experience that's happening in the moment, but even like people close to you, it's hard to read for those people and for yourself to have things coming through. And I know you struggle with this a little bit because there's a lot of times that you're like, okay, well, when is this happening? And even if you know something is going to happen and you feel it's happening, you're waiting because that timeline just isn't there for you. And it just, how do you deal with that? Do you have any interesting stories to share and, about trying to get answers for yourself? And
what?
I know that you and I sometimes do that thing where we'll send each other a text and say yes or no without really telling, what it is. And then,
Yeah.
it's we kind of do that. And that's kind of an interesting thing. And sometimes, you get the answer you didn't want. And then we tell each other what it was that we were asking about and, have a conversation about that. But
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I was going to mention that because since I've told a couple other people that you and I do that, so now I have two other people that I do that with. One is Stacy Casey, my massage therapist friend, and my
yep.
sister Nancy. So we'll do that, and but Stacy, she's not good at telling me what the hell it was, so I have to ask her what was it,
Yeah. Yeah, because
so
in fact, you got to know.
right. I mean, and honestly, I pull cards. Like I was guided to pick up this Lenormand deck, and I had never even heard of Lenormand. I had no idea what it was. But I'll use that occasionally to pull cards for myself. And it's like, okay, they all look really pretty and everything sounds good and everything, but at the same time, I'm still waiting, you know? And so I'll go on YouTube. I've got a couple of readers that I just started listening to, but it's not really personal. It's more, I just listen to the Aquarius stuff because, well, my sun and moon are both Aquarius, and occasionally I will jump in and listen to a Gemini because that's my rising. But yeah,
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know. I don't
even though that's a general reading, you can kind of infer certain things and where that energy is going to, how your own energy is flowing in your life, things like that.
for sure. Yeah, and I mean honestly, the ones that I listen to, they are pretty accurate as far as what is going on in my life. So it is reassuring. But I've had other people read me as well, just because sometimes you just need the confirmation, because what it is, it's not that I can't read for myself, it's that I second guess everything.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I think too, even intuitively, a lot of us do that. You get a gut feeling about something and then you second guess it and you think, well, okay, maybe I'm not being rational about this. And you second guess yourself. And then, as hindsight, you go, oh, I should have listened to my gut. I know
yeah,
I'm guilty of that, so.
Yeah, I know. And that sucks when that happens because it's just like,
So it so does. It so does. Well, this has been awesome. I mean, I've even learned a few new things about you too, because there were little few things in there that you interjected that I was like, oh, I don't know that I knew that. So
yeah.
we'll have a discussion about that later. But do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, just that if anybody else is in the process like this of, you know, waking up in their own, on their own path or whatever, just to go slow with it, take it a little bit at a time and don't get too overwhelmed with it. And um, just be patient with yourself as well, because it's a process. It really is a process, and it does evolve over time. So just
That's good.
don't,
I, I like the be patient with yourself. I think we all need to do that. I think as a general rule, people are all so hard on themselves trying to, get this done or do this and make this happen that, we're not good to ourselves. I like that advice. Be patient with yourself.
yeah. And often we aren't, we really aren't good to ourselves. We just we're our worst critics,
Yes, yes. So,
beat
okay. Well,
ourselves up.
yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
If someone would like to get in touch with you for a reading, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they can reach me on Facebook. It's my name on there is just Intuitive Lori. They can call me directly. I'm in the States. Area code is 586-339-2622. Or they can check me out on Instagram, also intuitive_Lori.
Awesome.
Well, Courtney, thank you so much for taking this on today and,
Oh,
interviewing me. This was really cool.
my pleasure. This was cool to put you in the hot seat. I thought
Yeah.
this was a good idea.
Yeah, and it was your idea too, so smart ass. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who tuned in today. As always, I'm grateful for your presence, and this was awesome. So I will see everybody back here next Sunday with another episode as we continue to wake the fuck up.